What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Parrot Press. Today's video is all about the MLS. For those who have been holding on to those MLS players in your gallery, you finally get the chance to put them in a lineup this weekend. And before that, we all go ahead and do that, I'm going to be taking a look at 11 players who I fancy to do well this season. Now, it would be easy for me, right, to put in Carlos Hill, Insigne, Bernardeschi, Andre Blake, Kyle Wagner, all of those guys. But these are some of the guys that are mid-priced and a little bit lower as well. You'll find a couple of bargains in there. And I've gone from a starting 11, basically, in a kind of like a, what formation, like a 4-3-1-2. But we're going to be taking a look at them, and let's get straight into the video. So from a goalkeeper point of view, I've gone for Eloy Room. Now, the reason for that is because Columbus have got a new coach this year, who a much better coach, in my opinion. I think defensively they'll be quite strong. But the main reason I've gone for this guy is because if we take a look at his scores here from the last year, you can see that there's no real big spikes. And there is a couple of drops down here with this 10 and this 7. But he always seems to get consistently around like 45, 50 points. And obviously, if you get the clean sheet on top of that, then it's great. However, what Eloy Room allows you to, or what he doesn't allow you to do, is kill your lineup. You know, some goalkeepers, I mean, if he does get that 7, obviously you are kind of struggling a little bit. But he just consistently scores around the 50s, the 60s, the high 40s, which enables you to get a lineup out there and compete for something. He doesn't kill your lineup. So I think that, you know, he's definitely the number one. There's nobody competing with him unless they miraculously go out and sign another goalkeeper. But I just think he's a safe option. He secures you points. It's not a bad value. I mean, you could pick him up for 0.33 literally yesterday. It seems like everybody's, instead of selling the kind of beginning of February or late January, it seems like the actual boom for MLS, from what I can see literally from this morning, because cards are selling like there's no business. Maybe it is the week before this year and people want to get their MLS lineups together and put them in America or wherever you're going to put them. But I do like Eloy Room. I think the other two goalkeepers that I actually thought about here, and I'm not talking about elite with the Andre Blakes or the Petrovic, would be the Fry or Willis on this. But I do like Eloy Room. Now, moving on to that, let's call it a right-back area, because I think that's where he plays this year, is Brooks Lennon. Now, I've spoken about him on this channel before. I think Atlanta United are going to be much, much better this year. I think they'll be better defensively with the likes of Guzan and Miles Robinson coming back into the lineup straight away. But also going forward, I think they'll be a little bit better with the new number 9 that they've got, obviously coming from Celtic. Louis Arejo, who's going to be decent again from an AA and a decisive standpoint. I think he's definitely one to watch, but not in this list. But Brooks Lennon, if we take a look at him, his scores here, you can see that he scores nicely into the greens as well. He will be, I think, playing as a right back this year with Guzman on the left, because he's played right back, he's played left back, he's played up front, he's played as a ram, he's played right midfield. I'm sure he's probably played centre mid at some point in time. He almost reminds me of a quicker and nimble John O'Shea. They used to call John O'Shea the wardrobe. But he kind of played everywhere, almost like a Phil Neville as well. But I do like Brooks Lennon. I think he's capable of getting up the pitch. He's, as I said, from a defensive point of view, that 10 points for the clean sheets with Robinson and Guzman being back as well. I really like him. I think that he gets in amongst it. I'm also sure that he takes some of their corners and gets involved with some of their set pieces. He's just signed a longer term deal as well, so I don't think he's going to be going anywhere. At 0.07 at the moment for the rare, I think is a bit of a steal. But I would like to pick up his super rare if I can yield some rewards over the next few weeks. I would like to get his super rare. Now, moving on to this guy, Robin Jansen. Now, he was out. Let's just go straight down to his scores. You can see here that he was out for 10 games in the end of the season. And I was quite lucky because I actually owned this guy's super rare and managed to sell it probably around like 297. along with Camacho, and they both got injured, and I managed to get out of that. So apologies for that guy who picked up the super rare, because I don't think anybody thought that this guy was going to be out for basically the rest of the season. But he is back now, and I do expect some better things from Orlando this year. I mean, they didn't have a bad year last year, but with this guy coming back, getting his partnership with Antonio Carlos back at the helm, Galise seems to be a little bit more secure now. There was talks of him going over to Saudi Arabia and other Middle Eastern countries to play there, but it seems like he's settled as the goalkeeper. He's a very, very good goalkeeper. And I think Janssen gets back to, let's just flip to all here and see. I think he gets back to this sort of form really when it's that mid-60s. So again, maybe another good pickup for a super rare, but I do like the look of this guy, and they do have Champions League as well, albeit that they've got a really tough team to play in the first stage of that. But I do like him. Again, from a budget point of view, if you're tight on budget, this guy could be the answer to your defensive stack if you wanted to pick up Pedro Galisi in goal as well. But yeah, I think they'll be back with a bang this year. Moving on to Aaron Long. Now, this was the talk of the winter, not talk of the summer, but in terms of a transfer, where was he going to go? Because he's obviously moved on from New York Red Bulls. You can see here he didn't play in the World Cup, but he actually made the squad. But looking at these scores, it doesn't set things alight, right? You don't look at these and think, oh, this guy's going to be amazing. However, he's going to a much, much better team. He's 30 years of age, so he should be coming into his peak now for a centre-back. And New York Red Bulls played in a way that was very kind of long ball football. So he had many, many missed passes. And I think he's going to be going into a team, as we know, the reigning champs, that like to play a little bit more intricate. They like to keep the ball and knock it around a little bit. And I think Aaron Long will do very, very well there. And for that price to be a starting centre-back, there might be a small bit of rotation, but to be a starting centre-back at basically the holding champions, absolute bargain in my opinion. Moving on to Gressel, with another guy that I've spoke about on this channel as well. He has a midfielder and a defender card. I don't really have a preference, to be quite honest with you. It just depends what card that you need. But I do expect Vancouver to have a better team this year. I think that they've just signed, I'm pretty sure that they have, maybe he's gone over there already, but they've just signed Takaoka from the Japanese league, and he's a really, really good goalkeeper, so he should tighten some things up at the back as well. But looking at this guy, he's one of the best crossers in the MLS. He looks like he's playing a little bit further forward on that kind of ram right mid position. And I think that he's very, very, very capable of high scores, to be honest with you, this year, because he's going to be taking some of their set pieces. He's going to be in amongst it. They've got Champions League football as well. And I really like this guy. I'm not going to say too much because I am watching this guy myself. Moving on to midfielders, out-and-out midfielders. So we've got Eric Tommy here, who plays for Sporting Kansas City. This guy, when he come in, you can see from these scores here, very, very capable again of scoring up in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, taken over some of the set pieces there from Johnny Russell, and they finished the where am I from? Around about here, from the Portland Timbers game, they started to come into some form. They went on an unbeaten run, and it was just the last game that they lost to Dallas, where that obviously broke that run. But I think that they're going to have a good season this year. I think that he is at that price. Some people might say expensive. There might be some better options out there, but obviously he's just come into the league and he's already smashed it with a few of these scores. So he's going to be, he's either going to go one or two ways for me. He's either going to take off and score even more points and rise in price, or he declines a little bit and goes to around about that 0.2 for his rare. But again, really like this guy. He's not going anywhere, having just signed for them, and really good age coming into his peak as well. The next guy, everybody should be aware of this guy, Osorio, playing at Toronto, playing for one of the best teams attacking-wise in the league with Insigne, Bernardeschi, etc. We go back here. these scores again speak for themselves. He had some issues and some other, I don't know whether it's mental health problems or whether it was medical or maybe a mix of the both. At the back end of last year, he made the Canada World Cup squad as well. But if we take a look at some of these scores, you can clearly see that the guy likes to get forward. And with the likes of the quality of Insigne and Bernardeschi around him, with Michael Bradley just holding that fort as a pivot in midfield, he has the license to go box to box basically. And I think he's a little bit under the radar at the moment. I mean, if you could pick him up for around about that 0.14 mark, I think he's a very, very good midfielder for any team. He's extended his contract as well because there was issues whether he was going to move abroad or try his luck in Europe, but he looks like he's staying at Toronto. They have a decent opening with DC United, into Miami. Maybe a tough game, but Toronto should win that for me. Then Earthquake, Charlotte, etc. So I like this guy. I think he's a very, very strong midfielder. Moving on to Torres for Orlando, another Orlando player that makes the cut for me this year. And there was links with him for Arsenal, but if you look at these scores, great scores. I expect Orlando to be better. He did make the Uruguay World Cup squad as well, which is probably a little bit of a tough thing to do when you play in the MLS, considering how strong the Uruguay presence is over Europe as well, especially in Italy. But he made that, and he can go on a serious run. You can see here that even coming off the bench, a goal and assist there. I think he's going to be. I think he's going to take over. What was his name? I had him in my Pereira. Don't know how I forgot that. I had him in my team for many months last year. But I think he's going to take over from him being the main guy at Orlando, to be honest. And one to definitely watch out for. Obviously, he's quite expensive, but I think his scores reflect why he is that expensive, to be quite honest. Moving on, Johnny Russell. So I've just sold one of these guys because I had to make a trade and bring somebody in. And Johnny Russell, I think, could get back to his best. Another Sporting Kansas City along with Tommy. And if we go down here, he had an average season, because if we look at all and we go back to these few seasons with these scores, monster scores. And I think he was honestly the most kind of go-to forward, along with a couple of others like Jan Hernandez, etc. But I think that he could get back to that form. He is missing some of the sets, as I said, so a little bit worrying from that front. But Johnny Russell is very, very capable of scoring high scores, getting assists, getting in amongst it, getting decent AAs. You can see here his last 3 games there, it's probably averaging around about 12, 13 from an AA for a forward, which is always decent and very, very welcome. So I do like this guy. He's on the list. His contract runs until the end of the year, but I expect him to either stay or move to somewhere else in MLS, or maybe he goes back to Scotland at a lesser team. But I like Johnny Russell. Then we've got Vrioni. He's already scored a few goals in pre-season, playing in New England. Another forward, obviously, another mid-price forward, or maybe some expense. No, he's probably mid-price, to be honest with you. He had some injury shockers last year. He was out for many months. He's kind of hit and miss, but when he did play for his previous club, you can tell there that he's very, very capable, again, of scoring and being in amongst it. He just didn't get firing at New England last year because of some injury concerns, but he could be one of the players to watch. He's under 23 until the summer, so if you're looking to play a lineup there, he obviously gives you that good utility, but I do think that he's going to be very, very good for New England. They've got a good run, Charlotte, Houston, or at LA and Nashville. I think it's going to be decent defensively this year as well, back in the Eastern Conference. But then you've got DC, New York City as well, with losing Sean Johnson, massive loss. Who knows what's going to happen there? Montreal, again, losing so many players. I think he's got a good run, and that combination with Carlos Hill and Gustavo Bo coming back in as well, I think that they could be formidable actually going forward. So if you do own a Carlos Hill, if you're lucky enough to own a Carlos Hill, maybe you want to pair it with this guy. And then the last one is another MLS kind of veteran. Everybody knows who this guy is, but he just struggles with injuries. If he can keep fit this year, he is one of the best forwards to own in the MLS. And what's he going for at the moment? 0.14. As I said, you are taking that risk picking this guy up. You can see how many DMPs. I mean, if we switch to all here, yeah, he's had a lot of DMPs. But when he does play, when he's fit and firing, so capable, in such a capable team as well with Seattle. Now, I owned some of their players last year, and it was disappointing because they had Champions League that distracted them and they just couldn't get up and running. But with João Paulo back, with Rusnak playing a little bit probably further forward, it looks like they're going to be playing 4 at the back rather than the kind of 3 centre-backs. And Rui Diaz, he's really good to watch as well. If you are into buying players that you want to watch their team and see how they get on, he is a really good player to watch because he's all action. He kind of shares a little bit of penalties with Ladero as well. Now, on the off chance, he'll probably get a pen, to be honest with you. But I really like him. Really like Rui Diaz. So that's the team. I'm going to end it there, guys. I'm going to end the video there. There are 11 players, or kind of all different positions, that I'm expecting to do well this season if they keep fit. Do your own research. These are just some of the players that are on my watch list that I'm looking for. It's not financial advice. I'm not telling you to go out and buy these players, but they are 11 MLS players I'm looking forward to watching this year, and I think that will do well. Who have I missed? Who are some of the bargains out there? Leave a comment down below. If you like the video, hit the like button. If you want to see some more, hit the subscribe button. And as always, I will see you in the future.